which I've been doing this for over a year now, so you think I would have noticed it before now, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. It's
a rough time.
It is. Welcome to another episode of Geekly Reveal. That's the show we do, and it's me. It's Dom. I'm here with Steph and Eric.
Hey.
Hello.
It's a week.
It's a week. I'd ask how you all are doing, but it's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
this week sure has been a year, hasn't it?
Is it the post that was going around that said, like, I think it was Lennon who said there are decades where we wait around and weeks where we find out.
Yes.
And
it's been one of those weeks.
It's been one of those weeks.
So I was laughing. I want to say this was Friday night going into Saturday morning, so it was Saturday. And someone's like, hey, y'all remember this is the week that Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. And there's still a day left in this week.
Oh,
and,
God.
Yeah, so if anyone's listening, this is going to be like a lot of politics in this episode. It's not going to be a long one, because, obviously...
If you don't agree with what we're about to all talk about, then why are you listening to our podcast in the first place?
It's a little surprising if you disagree with our politics, if you're still here. It's not saying people can't be open. If you disagree with our politics and you've stayed this long, I'll give you congratulations for being open-minded. I wouldn't have done that, but, it's possible. But, yeah, there's going to be a lot of politics and stuff in this episode, and if any of that might be triggering to you for more legitimate reasons, we understand.
We just had a hard time thinking of anything pop culture related that felt worthwhile to talk about given gestures at world.
Yeah, so things have been tough, and there was, I don't even know if there were that many pop culture things. I'll just say it off the top just to be funny and have that kind of thing, but the only pop culture stuff I saw this week was that they're making a sequel to the Sonic movie. We'll talk about it next week or something, because that news isn't going to...
It's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere, and
it's not going to go fast.
To change it. It's not.
It will not.
They're not going to start production in the next week, so...
No.
But other than that, it's been tough as a black person this past few days, more so than normal, and I guess it's, a lot of people are saying that, but I think with being unemployed from before the pandemic hit, these are things that I've been thinking of a lot already. So when people say, man, this has been a rough couple days, I'm like, well, that's true, because it's been in the news, but it's kind of been a background hum for a while now. And it's just bubbling to the top, and it's very difficult, but we do content here, so, we still want to keep putting that out, but it's wildly reckless and irresponsible and sensitive and just frankly shitty to not come out and just say unequivocally that
Black Lives Matter.
Yes, yeah. On our podcast, Black Lives Matter, and I'm glad you guys will say that, because it's kind of, again, foregone for me. It's always interesting at these points when people want to amplify black voices, right? And most podcasts that I've seen are either, most of them are monoculture, right? If it's a black podcast, it's black people. If it's not a black podcast, it's normally all white people or all Asian people. But there's very few that I've seen that have been, well, if we were to amplify a black voice on this podcast by amplifying the podcast, we are incidentally also amplifying some white voices as well, which is not necessarily the point or the goal. I'm not saying that we don't have good opinions here, or else I wouldn't be here at all. But I felt that it was important for me to say something and kind of put my feelings out there, since it has been hard. Sometimes I'm at a loss for words, which is sometimes uncharacteristic of me. Sometimes it's extremely characteristic of me. I'm kind of the motor mouth of the group. I think you both can attest to that. And I sometimes it makes me feel bad, but sometimes I take pride in it. And it has been hard. If you've seen the upload schedule for Geekly Reveal or Character Reveal, you'll know that these episodes don't come out always timely or consistent, and it's hard with the mental. I hesitate to say mental illness. I know there's people that do struggle with far more severe things than I deal with my mild depression. But with, again, gestures at the world, there's racism every day and there's pandemic. Sometimes it's hard to This is the easy part, is the podcasting itself. It's the talking with two people I really enjoy being around, two friends that I love, and that's fun and easy. Talking and interviewing people. It's the edits when the world's falling apart and it's just me sitting at a computer. Those
Having to
times
listen
it
to
gets hard.
yourself talking.
Yes.
Yeah, and the shit was funny the first time I said it, and sometimes it's funny the second time when you guys are saying stuff. Like, I will admit, sometimes the jokes make me laugh again, which statement to our quality, but it's just hard right now, and it's hard for all of us right now to even be talking about fun stuff. You know, we played D&D yesterday, and I don't want to go out in any protest right now. Partially because of COVID, partially because I'm afraid as a black person, especially in Pittsburgh, as we have seen that a lot of riots were started by not necessarily people that are from here or people that are sincere.
Yeah,
there are people rioting.
It's the same thing here where I am as well. It seems to be the norm.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are legitimate people rioting and angry because shit's fucked, and there are people that are smashing and looting and not necessarily taking their anger out, and I guess we could say a productive way is the way we want to say it, but it's still valid, I think.
Yes.
People aren't
ultimately, no, I was just going to say, ultimately, no one's life is worth more than the contents of a Target or, like, a restaurant or a building or, like...
Right, like, these things can be rebuilt, and I won't say that it's a productive way, but if you feel that it is, I wouldn't be the one to say no. I'm personally mad, and when people are like, burn it all down, I'm like, I don't have a reason to tell you not to do that right now. Things are pretty bad, and it's weird to see these protests that are relatively peaceful, and they'd stay peaceful, and then the cops show up, and we kind of know this. But it's very weird to see that while the cops are not on our side as black people, they're not on white people's side either. More so on you guys' side. Like, on the average, you guys aren't going to have to walk down the street and feel threatened by cops because you're white. I mean, Steph, you're a woman, so sexism still is going to exist, but it's not going to be because of your whiteness. I would imagine. That would surprise me. But when I see these protests where even white people are trying to be shields or be allies, the cops are like, yeah, we'll still kick you in the face because ultimately we're here to protect property and capital, and if you want to defend people against racism, well, you're an enemy of us. And that's interesting to see as well. And I think a lot more people are realizing that.
And I think the fact that, like, and this is to quote a tweet that literally, like, just came up on my timeline again, they can't even not do police brutality at the protest against police brutality.
It's insane.
It's insane that, like, every time people are peacefully protesting and the cops show up and start, like, I personally know multiple people who were tear gassed in the last 48 hours. Like, my state senator and my state representative, like, the state government representatives for Crown Heights, both were tear gassed at Barclays Center.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Like,
my congressional representative and my city council president were both tear gassed and pepper sprayed. It's insane.
And those are people that, in big quotation marks, matter.
Yeah.
Already to, like, these institutions. So, like, if they have no hope, what do the rest of us have? So, people are pissed off, and it makes sense. And I'm seeing people on my Facebook timeline, which is just another reason, Eric, you're right. No one should have Facebook.
Absolutely.
But
just
I'm seeing people complaining, like the Mario Lemieux statue at the Penguins hockey arena. I keep wanting to call it the wrong thing. It's PPG Paint right now. It used to be Console. It used to be Mellon Arena. But there's a statue of Mario Lemieux out there. And everybody from Pittsburgh knows, either because they care about hockey or because they're from Pittsburgh and have been forced to know. He's done a lot for our city and helped bring hockey back, and people are like, I can't believe y'all have done this guy's done nothing but help. I'm like, look, we don't have to get into the politics.
They didn't kill actual Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, no, a statue can be rebuilt.
So first off, nobody killed Mario. 2, they spray painted the statue. It can be painted over. The statue still has its integrity intact.
Yeah.
Next point, a lot of people being affected right now, there's a stereotype. Hockey's not a very black sport. They can't even get the racism under control so that their black athletes aren't being heckled, and there's like 5 of them. So, like,
my roommate was telling me, my roommate's a big hockey person. She was telling me that, like, two hockey players just started a podcast to push back against PC culture in hockey.
Like,
And
yeah,
I was like, what? They have that? They have PC culture in hockey?
that just goes to show, like, how little resistance you can show before people get pissed off. Because, yeah, like, a few people have said, hey, maybe we shouldn't call PK Subban, like, pick and cotton Subban. Like, maybe we shouldn't do that. And that's considered too PC for people to not be racist. And we're not saying be nice. This is a sport where you can call people jackasses. You can fight. Like, we throw... some cities throw octopus on ice.
Term.
Yeah, like, maybe just don't do that. And that pisses enough people off, and that stands something else. Like, they're one of the few sports that don't get involved with protests as it is, you know. I want to say Megan Rapinoe at least took the knee, like, with football players and basketball players. That's not a lot. I think she'll tell you that's not a lot. It's not going to fix everything. But it means a lot to see that your white colleagues, in a sense, colleagues under the ESPN umbrella anyway, will at least do something. So it's like, yeah, and also, like, yeah. So for people to get mad that a statue was defaced, like, I'm sorry, like, I don't care. I don't give a damn. I have nothing against Marley Mew. If I saw him, I'd be like, hey, bro, thanks for everything you've done for the city. Like, appreciate that. But, like, I'm sorry if your statue has some spray paint on it. I'm not gonna...
temporarily. Like...
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cancel my feelings of outrage with our bad society because of that. But,
One thing, this is, like, partly something that has, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to say it, like, selfishly that it warms my heart, but, like, as someone who is so, like, involved in union activism, it's been really wonderful to see the way that it's been, not only the fact that so many unions are now calling for the AFL-CIO to kick out cop unions, like, to de-affiliate from police unions because they don't do they don't stand in solidarity with anything the labor movement
just themselves
like wants to do. And additionally, like, the way that unions have been able to protect, like, the NYP, like, the New York bus drivers and Minneapolis bus drivers who refused to drive buses that the cops had, like, commandeered as, like, prison buses. Like, they were like, I'm not doing that. And, like, the fact that they're able to, and, like, that, like,
they're protected by doing that. Yeah.
That's good, though, because, you know, we think about, there's always the question of, you know, as white people, what kind of things can you do as, like, allies? Like, what can you do? Mm-hmm. And part of it is caring about issues that affect black people more than just when it's in the news or when it's profitable or popular. And, you know, being your friends, I know that you guys care about these issues as well. You're not just saying these right now because it's a big deal. Part of our podcast has always been social justice stuff as marginalized people in various capacities. But no, when unions stick together, that does help out black people in a way, especially when people are trying to get rid of these police unions that protect these racist cops, because, you know, the saying is a few bad apples spoil the bunch. So yes, there might only be a few bad cops at first, but as they slowly spoil the bunch, you have a lot more bad apples, and it becomes a whole barrel of bad apples, and soon it's like, well, our whole system of apples is bad. We can't have sauce or juice.
All of the apples
it
are rotten.
Absolutely drives me crazy that people try to use that metaphor as a justification for the fact that, oh, well, it's just a couple cops that are doing these things that are bad, and it's like, no,
all of the rest of them are enabling it.
Yes, exactly. If they're protecting them, then they are also bad. Like, that doesn't make them good.
Yeah.
Well, that even factors into the calculation. Is like, let's say it's only a few bad cops. It's the 10 people that kill people, and then, like, the 100 people that are protecting them. It's like, okay, let's say it's 110 specifically outwardly bad cops, and the rest are, like, on office duty and don't know about it. They're going to spoil that bunch. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Those attitudes come through and they replicate. That's the problem. And it's just infuriating to see people care so much about property damage, and knowing that we're starting to avoid a lot of time on the hypocrisy. When people are like, see, these people are breaking curfew, they should just go in the house if they don't want bad things to happen. It's like, 48 hours ago, you were saying the state had no right to keep you inside because of quarantine. Like, what happened other than, well, now it's black people? Like, that's
literally
the only thing that's changed.
That's the only reason, and it's time, so fucking stupid.
It's still the white people, aka the cops, who have the automatic weapons. Like,
yeah.
They weren't tear gassing, like, those people who were, like, sneezing on people at the, like, Michigan Capitol. Like,
Though, you know, maybe they should have.
maybe they should have.
I mean, they probably should have arrested those people. I'm not here to talk about giving
I don't want
police
to
more power, but
I don't
if
want
you're
to
gonna
encourage violence, but you know, at the same time, like, hey, like, if you're going to apply it that way to these protests, why are you not applying it that way to the ones where you literally let people storm Capitol buildings with automatic weapons?
yes,
like-
and that's what a lot of people are saying. If there was proof that there wasn't like a racist bias in the cops and they were just an evil organization, like unilaterally, it's like we'd be treating them the same way we treat like Jeff Bezos and any other billionaires. Like, yo, like, sorry to all our favorite billionaires, just because you're black, you're still like in the ruling class when we have those discussions. But this is not what it is with cops. They're not unilaterally bad. There are white victims from time to time, and it's very interesting. It's been pointed out every time there is one. Where's the All Lives Matter crowd when white people are being unjustly killed by the cops? It's still the Black Lives Matter
Still the
people
Black Lives
that are
Matter
like,
people who care.
like, hey, this isn't specifically us, but we don't want police brutality. So, you know, we were there for when Tyrone got police brutality, and we're trying to be there for when Kyle gets police brutality for no reason too. It's a similar issue. Just because it's not racist doesn't mean we stopped caring, and that's kind of the problem that they have. When I say they, the other side of people who are cool with fascism for some reason.
Oh, speaking of which, a slight political. Well, I mean, this is all political. Life is political, but this is a slight kind of deviation.
Sure is political, guys.
I don't know if you guys saw this today, but you know, our wonderful president decided to put out a message that they were going to declare Antifa as a terrorist organization, which A, is not within the purview of their power, and B, if you're declaring the group that is called anti-fascists as a terrorist organization, what does that make you?
Yeah.
Like, this is, again, the quiet part has been yelled out loud.
Yeah. And that's why they have to call it Antifa, because when you say, hey, we have to get rid of these anti-fascist movements, you don't have that leg to stand on. But when you can say Antifa, people can separate themselves from it. It's like the opposite of when they say Nazis were National Socialists. Like, that was a lie that they made up to not get in trouble. Like, you're not fooling anybody when you say, well, we don't like socialists because, yeah, the Nazis were. Like, no, we're smarter than that. Just because you don't read doesn't mean we don't. Like, you can relax all the way.
And it also says something that, you know, they have to shorten it to Antifa, not only because, as you said, it would imply that they are fascists if they are anti-fascists. Antifa also sounds like a foreign word. Yeah. It doesn't sound like an English word, and therefore people are more likely to, like, gut react and be like, oh yeah, that is a bad organization.
Yeah. Because it's...
Some people,
like most things, it's a made-up word, because words are made up.
Antifa, like...
Yeah.
Because it's no one knows how to say it, because it's just mysterious people in the world.
Yeah. And yet the Klan is still not considered a terrorist organization.
Yep.
Despite, like, being in their mission statement, from everything that I can understand. So it's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. So
do we talk about the brand issue, like brands trying to jump on this bandwagon now?
Yeah.
Like not for the sake of just stoking outrage, but just more thoughts to have. Is that, I mean, have you all seen like how many brands are like, hey, we stand with Black Lives Matter? Like, have you seen any of these and been like, oh, some of them are just saying it because it's the right thing to do, and it's even if it's trendy, and there's some where like you just straight up don't believe them.
Well, my favorite ones are the ones where it's like they say that they stand with Black Lives Matter and that they're, you know, like they're not donating anything, you know, it's just a statement, they're just saying it. Like, I understand the organizations that are saying that they're supporting it in actual physical ways, but then like Spotify comes out and says like, we support Black Lives Matter, these times are tough, and it's like, cool, thanks.
Like it said, like Glossier, like the makeup company said, like we're donating like several $100,000 right now to all these various bail funds and like liberation groups, and we're going to donate an equivalent amount to various like black makeup artists over the next like 6 weeks in order to boost their profiles or whatever. Like that's doing something.
Yeah.
Disney posting a Instagram story that says like Black Stories Matter, like
it's like cool, like this is basically an ad at this point.
Yeah. This is
And-
Black stories matter, like, Song of the South. They're,
Yeah,
I think that's not on
fucking-
Disney Plus, at least, because no, that we can't justify that.
yeah.
That does bring me some joy to laugh at.
Like all those movies where you had a black character. Wait, you mean that one movie where you had a black main character, but she's a frog most of the time?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's that stuff, and these aren't even the ads that really. This is the typical capitalist stuff that I don't think pisses people off beyond the norm. It's like during Pride. I know you don't give a shit. You know it's the right thing to say, and you're willing to risk the bigot money for like the progressive money. It's not a huge risk for you because you're already there. I appreciate it, but I'm not going to say it counts for a lot. You know what I mean? It's like when you get your food and someone didn't spit in it. Thank you, like, for doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm mad about this, but it's not like you did something great. The companies I think are pissing people off is a little bit Netflix, but also like your YouTubes and your Twitches, where it's like you guys have legitimate race problems on your platform that you're not doing anything about.
Yeah,
like
especially YouTube.
Like, you're gonna say like Black stories matter, but like, okay, like what leads us to believe that? If you watch a video on video games at all, and it could be very innocuous, like, hey, here's 5 tips on how to improve your aim as Lucio in Overwatch. Like, if you watch enough videos from video games, you're going to get to a white supremacist at some point.
Yep.
Like, it's inevitable because the way their algorithms are built. They don't, like, harassment's not a big deal to them. Like, there's a big race problem on Twitch, and they don't even have to use some kind of fancy method to find that out. They just have to post about, hey, we're doing a Black History Spotlight or LGBT Spotlight. So many comments are hateful and like, why do we need this? Why do we need this? You guys know.
Or, hey, we're going to have a
problem.
security council or whatever they called it.
Yeah, like...
Which sounds so like...
So you have a problem, but you're not doing any real steps about it. Like... And that's the ones that really, like, piss me off. Where, like, yo, you're literally saying this for clout, and I have no reason to believe that... I just have no reason to believe that it's going to matter to you. I don't believe it matters to you now. As a company, not the person who tweeted this. I'm sure there's some social media managers who very much care.
Yeah.
I know that because I follow the person who follows runs one of the people who runs the Pokemon Twitter. She cares a whole lot. She's a black woman. She talks about stuff all the time. But I don't believe that, like... So I don't know about Pokemon Company. They haven't said anything, but it's a Japanese company. I'm sure they'd rather steer away from that, which is not great, but whatever. But, like, I don't think that Netflix cares. Like, they cancel black shows all the time. They don't, like, spotlight things very well.
Well, yeah, like... I don't know, it's just Netflix also has the problem of, like, only, like, greenlighting teen things, like, movies and shit that, like, are, like, a quirky white girl and her black, like, light-skinned black best friend.
Yeah, like Tall Girl, which was a mess all the way. And, it's just little things like, hey, you'll buy Friends for, like, $1 billion or something, but, like, one day at a time can't get renewed. And that's not, like, a black versus white thing. It's just, like, people of color as a whole.
Yeah.
But it's just like our interests aren't in your view, and it just speaks volumes anyway. So that stuff kind of sucks. But I do appreciate people that are like putting their money where their mouth is and putting money to like bail funds and stuff like this.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, if you have the money to spare, at the moment, like, and if you're someone like who is for whatever reason afraid to go out to a protest or which is completely valid, or like can't go to a protest, this is definitely a way that you can help people.
Yes,
directly.
and it's important to also note that, like, just because you can't go out to a protest doesn't mean you aren't supporting things. It's
yeah,
each person to their own abilities. I don't remember the actual quote.
From each according to their means, to each or something like that. Strike that and reverse it.
Yeah, it's like, if you have health issues, if there are worries about actual, like, bodily harm, incarceration, anything like that, like, you don't have to be physically there.
Yeah,
in
like
order to support
when I did
it.
the protest, like, I've been arrested at a protest before, and it was completely scripted. Like, the entire thing, like, we went out there with the goal of being arrested to prove a point. And we were walked through the process beforehand of what was going to happen to us. Like, we had legal representation already, like, set up. Like, we had like people to hold our phones and stuff while we were doing the protest, like people like from legal aid who were like texting like our personal like contacts the whole time saying like, okay, they're finally arresting them, like this isn't like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was like kind of scary, and that was completely like
No.
no, I knew everything that was going to happen over the course of the day. And like even beforehand with the training sessions, they said like if you are a brown person or a black person and you're uncomfortable doing this, maybe like we understand and there's room for you on the support team. If you are a trans person and do not want to be like treated the way trans people are in jail, we totally understand and there's place for you on the support staff. Like
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is we don't just want people to say they support. You know, you try to find some tangible way, and you know, it's tricky when maybe you don't have a lot of money and you don't feel physically comfortable going to some of these things. I understand that. So what do you have the means to do? And I don't really feel like going through a whole list right now because I'm tired. But there's resources out there. I've retweeted them. There's lots of things on Twitter. How to support as a white person, whether you have money or not, or can go to protests or not. What can you do for your black friends? Because if you don't have any black friends, that probably points to other issues.
Yeah.
But, you know, what are the things that you can do to support that are, when I say not comfortable, because it's not about being comfortable, but like what doesn't make you have fear beyond what you want as a black person too, like what can we do to help, you know, because the black community has tried, you know, there's anytime people throw like what about black on black violence, it's like if you actually cared, you know, we were talking about this internally, because any community that has violence, black, white, Asian, Latinx, you should be working on those things because violence is bad. Well, obviously we are, but what can we do to get out of this situation? It's not just up to us, but there's things we look into. I just recommend honestly using Google. Try to find people with scholarly endeavors or just like an eye for this stuff. Just try to see what you can do to help, and that's what's really important. Obviously, the easiest thing to do is give money to relief funds or
like the Minnesota Bail Fund.
Yeah.
His actually been saying like put your money elsewhere at this point because so many people have donated there.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty well as far as that goes, which is good news, honestly.
Yeah, but like direct bail funds, the Brooklyn Bail Funds is actually like, it's been pointed out that they don't directly post bail anymore. Money that goes to them is for is used to push bail reform agenda. So it's more of a law thing than a direct aid thing, but it's still an important thing. And there are other sources you can give money to that are legitimate that do immediately post bail for people in Brooklyn and they're all over the place. If you are employed by a corporation, check on your company website or whatever about matching. I was able to get my donations to the Minnesota Freedom Fund and the Brooklyn Bail Fund matched by News Corp, so Rupert Murdoch's money is also going to support this.
I'm sure he's very pleased to hear that.
Yeah, as is pretty much everyone else in the Harper universe who has been donating.
That's good. That's a good way to use this billionaire money for good in some way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you can do that, support financially. There are lots of good books and other ways. Like if you are a white person, please do not go to your black people friends or other black people on Twitter and say can you educate me about why this is an issue? The internet exists.
Do the research yourself.
Yeah, so if you want, this is an occasion where doing nothing actually might be better than whatever you want to do. So make sure if you do anything, it's productive and not harmful.
Yeah.
If that was your inclination, it's better to just not say anything.
Yeah, if you don't know enough, at this point, what's going on, I'd be surprised if you have a black friend. But
yeah. And your white friends probably aren't doing you any favors either if you have no idea what's going on at this point or know why it's bad.
Yeah, but yeah, don't put the onus on black people to educate you. don't say people of color when you mean black.
There are times to include all of it, and sometimes this is an issue that's about black people, which is not to say all people of color are fairly treated by the cops, but that's not what we're looking into at the moment.
Pick up books by I think Ibram X. Kendi. He wrote Stamped, which is about racism, as well as How to Be Anti-Racist, which is a great read.
Because not being racist isn't enough right now. We need people to actively be anti-racist.
Yeah, and the thing about, some people pointed out on Twitter about being anti-racist is, it doesn't say, it doesn't say that you have to, be a perfect person. It means that you recognize racism in yourself as well as in the world and actively combat it. Yeah.
It's not easy, but none of this is. What I will suggest, as a way to help out black people right now, if you don't have money, if you don't feel that you can go to protests, if you can't do any of those things, do read up on it, but also just, support black creators or anybody like that. It doesn't have to be performative. You don't have to make a big show about it. Don't say, hey, look how much I've done. You can just make sure you're retweeting black creators, making sure that your YouTube or Twitch or Netflix diet has black creators and black voices in it. No, it doesn't count if one of your favorite characters is Barrett from Final Fantasy. That's a black character that was probably not influenced by a black person's hand. So stuff that's made by black people, influenced by us, written by us, is going to matter a lot in the long run. So hit those cash apps if you have to. Honestly, it can help a lot. So
yeah, give money to people. Remember, if you're a non-black queer person, remember that all of the rights you have right now happen because black queer people threw bricks.
Yeah, Pride is literally starting
3 days.
By the time this goes out, yesterday, let's say.
June's tomorrow.
June's tomorrow as of recording. So
I can't even keep track of the days anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to play the game of when am I going to get this recorded. And there's not going to be a lot of editing on this one just because I can't. Something I saw that just kind of made me feel away. There's a Sonic Twitter, not the one, but a one, like Sonic, like the Sonic Stadium Zone or something, or it's like a news thing. Mm-hmm. And people were getting mad at them for posting political things, and they're like, if you think we have no place as a Sonic Twitter to be reposting this stuff, remember that the beginning of Sonic Adventure 2 starts with Sonic being falsely accused of a crime and arrested by the cops, and then Forces is all about stopping oppression, so it matters to us. And people are like, that's very offensive, how dare you do that? Those are very fictionalized accounts, with a blue hedgehog. It doesn't compare to the real world stuff that's going on now. And I'm like, that's true, that is very true, that those are fake things. But if you're a fan of a franchise like superheroes or video games or Star Wars or something that focuses as justice as a theme even loosely, and you don't believe those things in real life, I'm not sure what you're doing. The Force is Jedi and Sith, and it's hey, maybe do the right thing and treat people right. That's not complex. That's why this stuff's for kids.
If you know that the Empire is bad in Star Wars, but you don't understand why people are rioting in real life, then media literacy. This is why it's important to have media literacy.
Exactly.
Right, and I'm not saying that you have to agree with all the ideals of something you watch, but typically, if someone says, hey, there was a good idea in this, and I'd like to live my life that way, I don't think that you get to say, well, it's a fake story, just because it's a blue hedgehog trying to get little jewels to stop, pollution and, animal abuse. Yeah, I don't think that has to be very real for me to say, hey, these are legitimate topics to care about. And for you to say that is you just saying, I don't get your politics out of my very political game. And that doesn't sit well with me, honestly. So yeah, I think more people should speak up on these kind of things.
The one thing that I would point out, if people don't know regarding donating, don't give any money or time to Sean King.
Yeah, that dude's a scammer, actually, and I don't think there's any evidence that he is.
There's no evidence that he's ever
pro-black
used any money
or anything like that.
That he's ever collected for causes.
Yeah.
He just kind of rides the wave,
not a great use of your time, money, resources.
Additionally,
Try not to amplify. That's all right. Try not to amplify like jackasses just to dunk on them. It's very hard. I understand that. I do it too. But if someone like Tommy Lauren is like, why are they destroying their own neighborhood? Just block her. You don't have to retweet it onto your timeline to see how dumb she is. We already know. If you want to tweet about it, that's probably not great, but it's better. But we don't need her tweets getting more traction. Just to block and ignore. It's fine. I'm telling this half as a reminder to myself. But what were you gonna say?
I don't remember.
It's all right. So I don't want anyone
also,
to
like, if you were supporting the people in Hong Kong 6 months ago, but you don't support the people in the U.S. now, then like think about why.
Yeah, think about what that says about you and your beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, what I remember now, it was another thing you can do if you aren't in a position to be out there supporting yourself. If you hear family members, close friends, anything like that, like talking down or basically being racist or anything, correct them. You don't have to be rude about it, but you don't need to be soft about it either.
Yeah, as white people, that's like a huge thing we can do to
like let them know that it's unacceptable and let them know why. And that is a thing that all of us can do.
Yeah. I've never had to deal with that at my Thanksgivings. Just, it's surprisingly there haven't been a lot of race. Actually, scratch that. There has been, like, some... like, we're doing it to ourselves. So I guess, yeah, even black people have to deal with black racism at Thanksgiving. But there is occasionally, like, the other bigotries that you gotta shut down. So it's... I know how tough that could be, which is not to say you don't try. If, again, silence is violence in a lot of cases. So you can't just sit by idly and let people have these bad beliefs. I am lucky that most of the relationships I have, like with friends and close ones, they don't let that stuff slide, which is pretty cool. At least in my presence, that stuff never tends to actually happen, so that's good. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. I get if people do want to unplug and not have to see all this stuff. I do understand that, but now's not the time to just not care.
Don't close your eyes unless you're a person who, like, I mean, like, obviously, like, for people who are traumatized by this kind of stuff, like, take the breaks you need to, but for, like, people
I'm not talking about black people. If you're black and you need to take a break, like, whatever, like, I don't do what you need to do. I'm talking about people like, this is just really stressful for me and I don't want to see it. Like, well, sorry, some of us don't get to turn our brains off to that, because when I walk outside, I'm still going to be black,
Yeah.
So it's
Don't
tough.
look away.
Yeah, and it's not fun to do episodes like this. I don't get a lot of joy out about talking about how the world's physically and metaphorically on fire. I don't look forward to in 2 weeks how we're probably going to have a lot of spikes in COVID. I don't look forward to that. I don't look forward to this being ways to take away civil liberties, but it needs to be talked about because there's just too much bullshit going on. People are pissed off. I think this was a particularly powder keg available situation. When we had that the woman in New York who called the cops on the bird watching black dude, which I'm not here to say anyone needs to be a model minority, but if you were ever to be somebody who was stereotypically not a threat to people, that was the guy.
Yeah.
And then the next day, or like pretty soon after that, this is when George Floyd was killed by a police officer. He didn't die; he was killed.
Murdered.
We don't
like,
need passive voice here.
The next time I see the fucking passive voice or people who say he was knelt on by,
okay, like
was fucking suffocated by, like,
yes, so I forgot what I was saying. Don't let people get away with passive voice. What was I saying?
It's hard right now. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, you don't look away from this stuff. Just oh yeah, so it was a powder cake situation as well, I was saying. So that happened very right after that, when people were already looking around, and like it's a few weeks out from people storming government buildings with guns. So like this is one of the times where like everybody is just home right now, and people normally have that go-to, why don't these people have jobs? And it's like, well, like, people tend to protest.
We don't actually have fucking jobs because of fucking COVID.
Yeah.
There's 25% unemployment. Like,
normally these protests are after work hours anyway, so it's always just a cop-out response to try to, like, other people as lower class or something. But no, people are like, they don't have jobs right now. People can literally say, what are they going to do, fire me? I don't have a job, and no one's hiring me anyway. So, yeah, people are pretty pissed off, and then you see, like, state sanctioned murder with like no consequences till like buildings start getting burned down. It's like, yeah, people are pretty pissed off, and we tried kneeling, we tried wearing t-shirts, we tried just making a simple hashtag that you could mute if you really wanted to, and all these things were seen as too radical. So yeah, I think we tried voting, and voting suppression happened,
Mike
and all
Pence
this kind of stuff.
tweeting about peaceful protests, like he didn't stand up and walk out of Hamilton and the the football game.
Yeah, Mike Pence has walked out of 2 peaceful protests. Kobe just was wearing his t-shirt. The Hamilton actors, which, a very, as far as people of color go, a very white-centered thing. It's not like
and that was
Hamilton really got into the race stuff.
It was hardly even a protest. It was just an appeal to them, like an appeal from the actors and the the performers, like to Pence to be like, hey, like, stop letting things be so shitty. And he's like, my whiteness cannot tolerate this.
Yeah, so it's no
Mother
surprise
will
that
hear
people,
of this.
So it's no surprise that people are extremely pissed off and want to be a little bit more violent. But at the same time, there are also people who are just being opportunists and using this as a time to be violent. Be very careful of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo. They always have some goofy shit. Like I read the reason for it. I don't really want to get into it right now, but like white dudes wearing Hawaiian shirts, there's some racist bullshit, Nazi shit behind it.
Yes.
I refuse as a queer woman to allow them to take Hawaiian shirts from me.
Yeah. I refuse as a fat man to allow them to take Hawaiian shirts from me.
I, as somebody who wore those bowling shirts in 6th grade with the fires on them, refuse to have oversized button-ups taken from me. So, no, jokes aside, there's a bunch of Nazi fucks running around, and, just be careful of all the weird 4chan level lingo that's going on out there. This one's a bit of a downer. Honestly, before all this happened, actually it was already happening, but, like, I wanted to talk about webcomics today is what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Sonic today. I saw that earlier this week. Not that the week was good, but that's not what I wanted to have to talk about today. But like I said, I think it would be irresponsible not to. So
we'll be back with the more lighthearted things soon.
Yeah.
Soon, yeah.
I don't know how much of a mood you guys are really into. To talk about anything. I'm kind of burnt out from talking about this. I was thinking before we started, no, I'll be good, but I'm just I basically just monologued for a while. I appreciate that space. Because last week when I monologued, there was no reason for me to take up that much airspace. That just happened, but this week I felt that it might be in all 3 of our best interests if I did most of the talking today.
Yes.
But what I will ask, and this is not important, so if you want to ignore any of my asks, this is the one to ignore. But I want to talk about nerdy stuff next week.
Definitely.
It'd be very useful for that if all of you out there went on the internet and read Scoob and Shag. It's a very goofy webcomic that is all I've been thinking about recently that was like pop culture related. Like, it's been all of my non-important thoughts have been this silly ass webcomic that I love a lot, so
it's actually very good.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to talk about that next week. Probably, a lot more than this 2 minutes we're giving it, but if you like any American cartoons and you like the idea of crossovers and you're like, man, I wonder what the interaction between Scooby, Shaggy, and Kermit the Frog would look like. If that even actually
ever occurred to you? Question mark.
How would I say? how would I say this? Someone said it's like Junji Ito mixed with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure mixed with Looney Tunes and Scooby Gang. If any of that sounds like something you'd want to give 20 minutes to.
I read the whole thing in like maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 90 pages. And like the first... Well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the first 13 are like really fast to read.
Yeah, the first like 10 are like kind of like throwaway like potty humor jokes, and then suddenly it's like this epic thing.
Yeah, and it's great. So that's what I want to talk about next week, if nothing else. There will be other games and whatnot. There will be lots of talk. Well, no, there might not be lots to talk about because we're still in quarantine and nothing's happening.
Yeah. We'll have topics.
Yeah, we'll have topics.
We'll work on it. We'll get there.
I just have that performer part of me that's like, well, we still gotta give the people a show, even though I just buried my soul out for a little bit. I'm gonna end on a story of like sometime I had to like witness some police brutality, and this time it wasn't even racist. But it's what made me lose a lot of faith. Do you all have anything you want to talk about before we end this?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Cool. So, I went to University of Pittsburgh. That's not really doxing myself. I think you all may have known that by now. But I went to Pitt. It's in Pittsburgh. Pitt has 2 T's and there's an H on the end of Pittsburgh. Just, that's part of a Yinzer thing. We all appreciate that. But
it's a silent H.
It's a silent H. It's there, but don't forget it or we'll be sad. But back in, I want to say 2000, probably like early 2010. I forget when. 8, 9. Yeah, it was like either late 2009 or early 2010. The G20 convention came to the United States.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And it came to Pittsburgh. So obviously they were like, yo, so there's going to be a lot of security here because presidents and world leaders are going to be in the city. And we're like, well, where in the city? Because if you're from outside of Pittsburgh, the whole thing is Pittsburgh. But if you're from here, you know the suburbs, you know that Pitt is in Oakland, and that's not Pittsburgh proper. Like, you have to cross a highway to get there, and like it's not really the thing. So if like a president is in the city, it's not really going to affect your student life that much unless you leave the campus and drive for a while. So these came in, and there was a lot of cops outside. So being dumb college kids that we are, with a lot of us either being privileged white kids who never had to deal with police brutality, or black people that were only from black neighborhoods and never been around an all-white neighborhood, or those of us like people like me that were black from mostly white areas. This was a weird situation for all of us. It was culture shock for almost everybody who was at Pitt, I'd say. So we just wanted to go see what the cops were up to. We heard there was mischief and we wanted to just see it. And for the most part, they were just standing there, like, just kind of like, hey, we don't really want people hanging around this building because world leaders may come through this area at some point. I get it, It would look real bad for the United States if world leaders got hurt on a college campus in America. I get it. But they started pulling out stuff like sound cannons and like pepper gas, like bombs. And a sound cannon is basically something like, imagine like a police siren, but it's like, I don't know, like a satellite shaped thing that they use as like, it's a sound cannon. It's weird tech. Like, it's a weird thing that exists. It's used to disperse crowds, but it can cause a lot of problems to you if prolonged exposure to it. So, we're all out just seeing the riot that's starting to occur, mostly saying like, hey, we want to go see some like anarchists act up and get like beat up by the cops, And 2009, 10, I'm not gonna act like a lot of us were literate with like how some of this stuff is. Like, we all knew the cops were racist, but we didn't know there was a systemic issue. Our fault, not anyone else's. So we're out there, we're watching, and we're like down by the Cathedral of Learning, beautiful building. But there's like a lawn behind it, and we saw the cops there's like cops and SWAT and army guys, and they were starting to like march on this lawn, and we noticed they were starting to like outline the perimeter of it, and we thought quickly, we gotta get the hell out of here because they're gonna close this perimeter and like beat the people in it for like not dispersing. It's very obvious to a bunch of college sophomores that this is a trap and we gotta get the hell out of here, which we did, and we turned around to look to see that they did get closed in and yelled at, which is, hey, get out of here, but we're not letting you leave. Like, okay. So we wanted to walk a friend back to their dorm because, I don't know, chivalry's not dead, I guess, haha. But we did see some SWAT guys putting their equipment on, and they looked at us and said, "Hey, we're just walking our friend back to campus." They said, "Okay." They looked at us and saw that we were like 4 black dudes. We were afraid and like, you know what? We don't have to worry about this yet. But they saw some white dude like in like anarchist gear, like had a face mask, like a bandana face mask and like a helmet and stuff. And he just took off when he saw them. And that set them off. Said, "Hey, better them than us." He juked out the one cop, which is very hilarious to see a cop like fall over and their SWAT equipment like fly in the air like a cartoon. Which America's finest, everybody. Can't catch a teenager.
They've fallen and they can't get up.
But the other guy did yell at him to freeze and didn't freeze, and he shot him with a rubber bullet, which did make the person drop. And we're like, we got to get the fuck out of here. I had later heard from an acquaintance who I think was in the armed forces, and they were at that, and as part of the armed forces, and they said they were happy that they were getting the chance like to beat on some college kids, which this person wasn't much older than me, but enough that I'm like, yo, y'all are supposed to protect this country, like that's fucked, like y'all are pieces of shit if you want to do that, and ever since I heard that, I'm like, I know that we're supposed to respect our troops and those people who are like protecting the country, but like right now you're just like beating up college kids for like being somewhere, and that never sat well with me for like the last 11 years. So it's kind of like, if you're supposed to protect and serve, like I didn't see a world leader or like a carcade or anything like that, or anything that was like, hey, we're here to protect you guys, but also there's world leaders who are high priority. Like there was none of that. They never came to Oakland. They were always downtown, which was like 5 miles from where we were. That was never, I don't know about 5 miles, but there was nowhere we were walking that night in the middle of the night to get to. So for
that you could have encountered like Obama.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to see Obama like by accident, let alone on purpose, unless I would have went to like a thing. Would have been super cool. I would have loved to see a speech by Obama at the time. Again, didn't know about all the shit that was not so great. Our fault, not theirs. But it would have been cool to see a speech from him. But nah, we're nowhere near it. That was all downtown. So I don't know. I think a lot of people have reverence for stuff that they've never had to like really confront. But, and I don't mean confront the way like we did, like next to people getting shot and pepper gassed. We did get pepper gas trying to go through the tower A, B, and C lobby to get to one of our dorms. But they had blocked it, so we're like, we can't go home, and we want to go home, and you told us we can't stay here, like, and people are like, what do you want us to do? And that kind of like helpless feeling of like something bad going to happen to me for like going outside for a campus that I like pay to go to from some guys who don't actually need to be here. Like that's not cool. So, and that was not any race specific. That was just them fucking with kids because they could.
Fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's the story I have, and that's my main experience with seeing police brutality. I'll admit that I've called the cops before when my apartment got robbed at Pitt, and they were very helpful. They were nothing but respectful. It was cool that a black cop showed up. There's no way they would have known that I was a black person, so luck of the draw, but the white cops were very professional, which is not to discount anything. I still don't have a lot of trust, but I can say, yeah, people are like, what are you going to do if you need to call the cops? It's like, well, if I'm ever in a situation where I need to call the cops, yeah, I'm going to, because it's not up to them to decide to not get to do their job. If I need them to be there, I should be able to call them safely. But I'm saying, hey, cops need to just get their shit together.
I wouldn't call the NYPD if someone was stabbed in front of me on the street.
No, that's
fair.
weird. No, that's no. I'm
not in my neighborhood.
I'm not talking about that either. I'm literally mean like, I'm like. I have been robbed and it's an investigation and I hope you can do something about it, or at least that I can file like an insurance claim, or like there's some serious shit going down and like I have a risk of dying if the cops don't show up anyway, so like I'm willing to take that risk that I'll die if they show up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not calling the cops because someone's being a dickhead. Like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna catch an ass whooping from a guy in a bar. You know what? I shouldn't be drinking that much anyway. I'm just go the fuck home. But yeah, I don't like that line of logic. Like, well, what are you gonna do when you need them? Like, fucking call them. That's their job. Like, I don't know.
Call them and hope they do their job correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I don't know. Sorry for the stories and the rants. It's just been. It's been a lot. It's been a lot to deal with. I'm not even gonna edit this that much. I can't. But I think it stands as what it is anyway. You know, it's important to hear Black perspectives, and if we're gonna hear white voices, I'd rather them be ally voices and not shitty people on the internet. So
yeah,
I appreciate you guys for being there for me.
Shitty people should be banned from the internet. Should figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there's a way, from that Twitter could do that.
Yep.
Just a thought.
Maybe they have a terms of service or something that would say that instigating violence is, not allowed, and that if you do that, you should be banned. But, I don't know. I don't work for Twitter. I
don't understand exactly where their allegiances lie. It's very confusing.
Money.
It's just money. Yeah, it's just money. Cause I don't know if there's any leaning to it other than they want money. Because they piss off the president, which good for them for not even doing what they said they would do.
Yeah,
you're supposed to ban violence, and they're like, hey,
taking the most milquetoast possible stand. Which,
at the same time, part of me has to wonder, like, is this better for them? Because people don't believe that Donald Trump says the shit that he does. I'm like, there's record of it. We don't have deepfake technology that good. We all saw him say that. We can see his tweets, and yet you don't want to believe them. If they would have deleted his Twitter, like, would people believe he said that shit? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's scary. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to take the risk just to delete that motherfucker off of Twitter. It ain't helping anybody. So,
well,
yeah. Social media business will be in the description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have anything to say?
Just a quick thing to circle back on the donation thing. ActBlue now has a single link that you can go to and split a donation between, I think, 34 or 37 different bail funds. So you can set up a recurring donation that way and kind of split the money between a bunch of different states, and
bless you.
That's in that.
Yeah. If you really have to, set up a reminder on your phone or calendar to think about what you can do to help with justice a month from now.
Don't let it.
Hopefully, this is all calmed down on a physical level, but hopefully we don't calm this down on a moral level.
Yeah, we don't want to lose the momentum.
So, it will take training. I've seen people say you don't just. It's a word that's been ruined, but for lack of a better word, you don't just become woke overnight by deciding to. You don't want to just be woke. That's not enough. You need to actively practice these things, and there's no shame in saying, hey, I wasn't good at this before. I wasn't aware of things before, and I need to be, so I need to force myself to do it. I'm going to put a reminder on my phone to look at a creator today or something, or look for a fund or read up on something, and it becomes habit, and then slowly but surely you become a better person. So we can all do that kind of stuff. So thanks for your time. I guess it's a lot different to sign off this way. I normally take Steph's social media biz as a time to recharge so I can have a fun outro. I don't know. Eric, you got a cat. That's cool, so I'm glad for you. I'm very happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, the little bright spot in the week, new cat, he's really dope. His name is Kaito.
He's a very cute cat. We started D&D somewhat late because we always wanted to watch him. And that brings me joy to think about your nice little cat. So, it's a cool cat.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Man. So there are some good things in the world. Avatar's on Netflix. Watch it if you haven't. Watch it if you have.
Our friend in D&D got their eyes replaced by orbs.
It's pretty cool.
It's a fun story we gotta tell.
We did eye surgery during our D&D campaign yesterday.
Yep. I let that happen.
You did, because you're a good DM. But yeah, listeners, thanks so much for listening to another episode of Geekly Reveal. We talked about some pop culture stuff, so I guess that counts. Just try to be better. We all gotta do better, but until next time, see you later.
Bye.
See ya.